So you're thinking about getting into home brewing, but you're broke. I got you right here. Stay tuned. Alrighty, folks. Now, what I have here on the counter is a few of the tools and supplies I use for my home brewing kit. Not all of these things on the counter are needed to do your own home brew. And I'll kind of walk through what I feel is definitely needed when you're doing home brew, and then stuff that just makes life a bit easier. So we'll dive right on into this. The first thing you're going to need is some kind of a container to do your fermenting in. Now, they make glass carboys and they make special brewing containers, but an old 5-gallon bucket that is food grade works just fine. Now, there are ways to tell if you have a bucket and you want to use it and you can clean it, it's not too dirty, and you want to use it for your home brewing. There are ways to tell if it's a food grade bucket or not. And I don't know if it's going to pick it up, but there's little triangle label here, and it has a number in there and some writing underneath it. You can look that up on the internet and see if your bucket is food grade or not. So that's a little important tip to tell if your food bucket is food grade, if your bucket is food grade or not. And these are real cheap, guys. I believe this cost me $4 with the lid. I'm pretty sure you guys can find them cheaper, or you might have some laying around in the garage that aren't too nasty, and you guys can clean them up and use them for homebrew. The only modification that was done to this bucket was that a hole was drilled into the top of the lid here, and why that was drilled in, it was to allow my airlock and stopper to fit right into it and create an airtight seal. So that brings us into the second piece of equipment that I have up here, and I believe that this bucket is essential, and I believe this airlock is essential. And the reason why I believe this is essential is that it allows your fluid to off gas without blowing your lid off, and it allows that all to happen without creating a way for bad bacteria and bad stuff to get into your mix. There are some people that will tell you, you can just get a 5-gallon bucket, you don't have to buy this, just leave the lid cracked. Yeah, that's fine, it allows it to off gas just fine, but now it's allowing a trail for bacteria and nasty stuff to get in there and ruin all of your hard work. So I believe this is just as important as this 5-gallon bucket. And the last piece here that I believe is important to your home brew is this little temperature gauge thing. This will let you know what the temperature of your mash is in your bucket, which is very helpful when you're home brewing, because a lot of different style beers, wines, sake, everything has a temperature that it likes to be kept at while it's fermenting. So if you don't have one of these, the only way that I would know of how to check it were to be to open your cap, open it to air, and then you can reach in there with a thermometer and stick it in there. I mean, you're asking for contamination there. So you put one of these on there, you stick it on there, it gives you a rough idea, rough enough to allow your beer to come out or your wine to come out good. So that's it really, guys. Airlock, bucket, and a thermometer, and that will get you through your fermenting process, if you will. And then after that, the possibilities are endless. You guys can see over here that I have a bottle cap and a little capper over here set out, but this isn't necessarily a have-to-have in your homebrew kit, because they do make glass bottles and it has a metal wire around the top, and they call it a baler top, and you can open and close those and they're reusable. So if you were to get a few of those bottles, you wouldn't have to get a capper or the bottle caps. And the same thing if you're using old wine bottles or whatnot and they have a cork in them, you won't need that. Another thing that you'll see over here is a graduated cylinder and I believe that's called a hydrometer. And that is nice because what that's going to do is it's going to tell you the alcohol content in what you're making, whether it be wine, beer, sake, whatever. It will tell you the alcohol content in there. Now this meter will not read for, like, if you're doing moonshine or whiskeys or thing like that. You'll have to buy a completely different meter. But this meter here, and it even says on the package here, that is good for your wine and your beer. So this is not necessary, it's not a necessity to have, but it's nice to have. This here, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are familiar with this. This is called a racking cane or a racking siphon. And this is just a fancy siphon. So you could accomplish the same results with a piece of tubing that you can with this. This is just nice because you don't have to suck on the end. You just take it and you rack it up and down, and it creates a suction and gets your siphon started. So it just makes life easier. And also the same thing with my little homemade bottle filling contraption here. You know, they make all sorts of different ones that you can buy. You can put one together like this. But once again, not really necessary. This just allows you to control the flow. Like if I'm filling a bottle and it gets all the way to the top, I can shut it off, take the bottle off, and get another one and keep going on down the line. But once again, it's all up to your preferences. So let's get back to the basics over here, which is your bucket. And let's say you have at the most $4 into your bucket and lid. You buy one airlock. You can get those off of the internet with that little rubber stopper for about $3 a piece. So you got 4, 5, 6, 7. You're $7 there, and then your little temperature gauge here. And now that was probably the most expensive thing out of all of this. It was $7. But then again, I'm pretty sure you could go to a pet store, because they have these at pet stores for like reptile cages or fish aquariums, and you can find it cheaper. So basically for under $20, guys, you will get yourself into the home brewing game and start brewing either some beer or some wine. And that's really how cheap you can get into it. I see these kits all the time on eBay. I see all these kits on Amazon that says starting kit into home brewing, and they're asking $90+. It's not necessary, guys. Just do a little bit of research into it. Get these 3 things under $20 and you got your foot in the door. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope this encourages you guys to get out there and enjoy the hobby of home brewing. See you later.